Welcome everyone, it's the Crypto Lark, and I'm very excited to have on again today Craig from Navcoin. We're down here in the Wellington waterfront. It's a beautiful day out in Wellington, a little bit gray, but nice overall. Craig, welcome.
Hey, thanks Lark. Thanks for having me along.
Yeah, for sure. Now, we're going to be talking about some key Navcoin updates today. We're going to be talking about privacy, and we're also going to be talking about market trends, and that's where we're going to start off our conversation today. So, what are your thoughts on the current state of the market? You've been in the crypto scene for quite a while, so what's your kind of feeling right now?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting one. Obviously, the last 12 months has been really hard price-wise and stuff like that. We've seen a massive decline in the price of Bitcoin, which of course leads a lot of the other markets to go down as well. But, you know, for me personally, I got into this stuff maybe 2013. I saw that big pump when Mt. Gox crashed and all that stuff. And this type of market cycle has happened multiple times before, right? I think there's like another video where the guy's like, Bitcoin's dead, oh no, and it does it like 4 or 5 times, if you've seen that. So, you know, there's always a lot of people saying that Bitcoin's dead and that it's over and all this kind of stuff. But for me, like, I really think that the fundamentals which got me interested in blockchain and Bitcoin haven't changed over the years. In fact, they've got nothing but stronger, to be honest. And I think that what's happening right now is everyone's in the industry is laying down the foundations to make this continue and grow in the long term. So for me personally, it's been tough. The sentiment, you know, it's obviously nerve-wracking and it's hard, but I see nothing but positive basically. I think that if we're not at the bottom, we're probably pretty close. And as I said, fundamentals still there, and they're just getting stronger by the month, really.
Oh man, it's so true. And this is one thing when people come and say, oh, you know, Bitcoin's going to zero or something like that, or all crypto's useless. I mean, there's so many different opinions, from the Bitcoin maximalists who think that everything else is shit and not worth anyone's time and it should be just eradicated from the market, which is like extremist crazy talk, to, you know, the non-coiners who are just say all crypto's terrible, it's all going to zero. And it's just, wow. Those are so just myopic opinions, because you look at the innovation that's happening right now, the fundamentals. I mean, yeah, we're in a bear market, but you take the long term, I mean, look at where we've gone from, you know, zero right on up with all these digital assets. It's very exciting.
Absolutely. And I mean, not just, I mean, it's easy to look back and go, oh, Bitcoin was 5 cents one day. Everyone who invested then is doing well, obviously. But even on it is important to zoom back when we look at price trends and maybe look at things in sort of exponential measures. But even just if we look back at the beginning of 2017, it's only 2 years ago, the price of Bitcoin was under $1,000, you know? And today it's like 4,000 US dollars. So as an asset class, a 400% growth in the bottom, well, caveat bottom of the bear market is, you know, just not heard of in any other type of investment.
That's right. No, it's absolutely wild, and obviously if you bought Bitcoin for $18,000 or $20,000, that's you've probably already sold. You're probably not here anymore, and you're probably running around telling everyone that Bitcoin's a giant scam and all other cryptos to go along with it. But one question I wanted to ask you, I mean, you're the lead of an altcoin, and how do you ever break away from that Bitcoin dominance? How can you actually kind of get out there and try and, I guess, cut your own path in the crypto industry? Or do you think we're still a few years away from the industry maturing to the point where Bitcoin is no longer, when Bitcoin sneezes, everyone else gets a cold kind of thing?
Yeah, well, it is tricky, especially when we're talking about from a price point of view. What I've seen is a lot of the traders, they're kind of ping-ponging backwards between Bitcoin and other cryptos, altcoins and stuff like that. So they'll try and make Bitcoin over here and then buy altcoins with that Bitcoin and then move that altcoin up and keep kind of going backward and forwards so they can make more and more money. So I think that it's a bit illegitimate to say everything is guided by Bitcoin, but often that's the last exit point because it has the most liquidity into fiat currency. So that's the exit point, and then once that ping-ponging action stops happening, then everything starts to slide down.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's a really good point actually, and the dominance of Bitcoin is really interesting because you see so many people coming in and out of many of these major trades, and I think having all those fiat on-ramps is one of the really big things, of course, that makes Bitcoin the final point of departure and also the first point of entry. I mean, how many fiat gateways do we have right now for Navcoin?
there's a couple in New Zealand. There's Easy Crypto and what's the other one? BitPrime.
BitPrime, yep.
And there is Euro Gateway Lightbit, and there's a couple of others. I'd have to look up on the exchanges page, to be honest. But yeah, it's still pretty small, and it can be hard for people to liquidate out of smaller coins into their local currency. So I think that's definitely something which could help, and we have seen that with some coins, you know, like Litecoin and Ethereum, for example, are largely traded against the USD because they're on big fiat exchanges like Bitstamp and stuff like that, or Kraken or whatever, that people can exit with. But you know, breaking the Bitcoin dominance, I think, is not just about price. It's really about security and features and all that type of stuff. And just there's no challenging that Bitcoin at the moment has the most people working on it, the most development happening, and also a really strict and stringent rollout process of everything, right? If they're not happy with how something's working, they're not going to deploy it. And it can be slow, but it means that it's safe, it's secure, it's like the sort of poster child for how to do things. And we've modeled a lot of what we do at Navcoin by looking at what Bitcoin does in terms of processes and manifestos and how they operate and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's really important to do that. But I think until someone's able to really challenge that aspect, that safety and security, and also widespread adoption, there's just so many factors, right?
Yeah.
But until someone can genuinely challenge that at scale, I think that Bitcoin's going to be the market leader for until that happens, basically.
Until that happens, yeah. What are your thoughts on proof of work mining? Obviously, this is one of the biggest criticisms that we see leveled against Bitcoin. We actually see, like, Ethereum is working on moving towards a proof of stake system at the moment. Do you think that proof of work mining has a long future? Are we still going to see proof of work mining being a big thing in 50 years, for example?
You know, we're talking about Bitcoin maximalists before. I think the best call I've ever heard from a Bitcoin maximalist was that Bitcoin won't be secure until 51% of the world's power is used to mine it.
Oh my God.
So that no one could physically come on and, you know, just bring miners online to attack it. But
quantum alien attack, it's going to happen. They're going to come in and mine Bitcoin and attack it afterwards. That's crazy, though, thinking that we have to dedicate 51% of the world's energy. I mean, that's obviously an extremist point of view, but it really just says I guess, even if we were doing renewables, you still have to make those solar panels, you still have to make those wind turbines, it still has a big cost. And so there's a lot of conversations to be had about the sustainability around the proof of work networks, and it's the burning of the hardware, it's the burning of the electricity, and okay, sure, some of that's, you know, done in Siberia where they have overproduction, but not all of it, without a doubt.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, Navcoin's proof of stake, so obviously for me, I think that is, I'm on that side of the argument, but I still don't like to just write off proof of work. Like, it is really secure, right? And you know, you often hear things bandied around like Bitcoin uses more electricity than the whole country of Ireland and all this kind of stuff. And it is true, and it is a problem that we should be addressing. But how much energy does the banking sector use, or the Visa network? I'd say that I haven't actually researched
global war machine,
the facts, but other payment processes and, you know, stock trading infrastructure and all this stuff uses huge amounts of electricity as well. Not because they do any type of proof of work stuff, but they're just so big. And there is, you know, with things like the Lightning Network and other things, it's not necessarily about scaling bigger or having more blocks or having more proof of work. So we can potentially scale these proof of work networks to allow for more transactions without increasing the energy consumption by that much. But as I said, I'm really more in favor of proof of work. It's still a reasonably young technology, and there are active research groups like Navcoin's part of the Proof of Stake Alliance, and we're working to always continually improve it. There's a lot of work being done by Ethereum and stuff like that to make it better and stronger and all that type of stuff. So I think that it is something which we'll see pick up more steam across other projects as they look how can they protect themselves from 51% hashing attacks, and how can they reduce their carbon footprint and stuff like that.
Yeah, well that's a big thing, reducing their carbon footprint, of course, and proof of stake is just getting better and better all the time. And I feel like sometimes in this conversation people talk like technology stopped 10 years ago when proof of work technology came out, and we've moved so far since then, and proof of work's been amazing, proof of work's been secure, but proof of stake is getting better and better all the time. And I think that's a really important thing. Now, you guys, you actually are making Navcoin carbon neutral this year. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Navcoin has a decentralized community fund, which is basically a small portion of the mining rewards go into a fund which even we can't access as devs. They're completely burnt, and then anyone is able to put forward proposals, and I put forward a proposal to pay the carbon offset of what I calculated to be an estimate of Navcoin's carbon dioxide emissions through mining, proof of stake mining, and even looked at things like how many users we have using cell phones and how many wallets there are and how many people are on exchanges and all that type of stuff. And yeah, that got approved by the network, so everyone voted on it within the network, and it passed from the people that voted. Like 87%, I think, of people voted yes. And I paid for the carbon credits through a charity here called ECOS, which does carbon offsetting in, I think, the Solomon Islands and Fiji, and also the Golden Bay of New Zealand.
Great.
So yeah, that's all paid for just last week, I think. So now Navcoin is officially carbon neutral.
That's great.
As far as you can estimate these things in a decentralized network, it's kind of hard. So I've taken my best guess at what it is. So I'm pretty proud of that. I think that's a big step forward, and I think it's also a big nod to the willingness of our community to spend that community fund to do good in the world as well, right? Not all of the proposals have to be about building developer-heavy sort of features and stuff. It can be used for promotions, it can be used for educational stuff, it can be used for charity stuff like this. You could even just come along and do something completely not Navcoin related, like I want to go to Africa and dig wells for villages there. And if the network says yes, then the network says yes. It's really actually a form of governance and a financial form of governance as well.
I think community funds are so incredibly important for any cryptocurrency moving forward. I mean, this is the thing, is that with Bitcoin, there is no kind of community fund, and that where the developers, they need donations and things, and we have different corporate structures which have arisen around the development of Bitcoin's code. We can look at Ethereum, for example, and sure, we have the Ethereum Foundation, but I mean, there's no regular income for that. That's based off of, again, contributions from early investors like Joe Lubin or Vitalik himself, and that's great, that's sustainable. They have, obviously a lot of money, but it's only sustainable to a point, right? Without having to continually reinvest into new things and to find new opportunities to keep that money coming in, to keep the developers fed in order to keep the core really moving strongly. So the community fund, I think, is a super, super important part of that step.
Absolutely. Well, the whole idea behind Bitcoin in terms of getting people to engage with it is by creating an incentive scheme, right? So they have an incentive scheme to participate in validating blocks through mining rewards. And in a similar way, we kind of have like a proof of effort, in terms of the community fund. And what it really is incentivizing people to engage with the project. And so it means that we remove me and the people who I sponsor from being a central point of failure, or in the Ethereum's case, the Ethereum Foundation. Yeah. So you're incentivizing people to take part. You're also removing a barrier to entry through access, right? So one of the things that I do like about it is that it is a form of governance, and like with a traditional government like we have in New Zealand, it's very hard to get a bill introduced for changing something as a regular citizen. There's this massive barrier to entry. You have to be an MP, or you have to have so many signatures, whatever. So with a decentralized community fund like what we've got, we've leveled that playing field. So anyone can put forward a proposal, and then it's up to them to convince the community and the miners and the network people who vote that the idea is worth voting for. So, it really levels that playing field and removes that problem of access, which I think is a really interesting aspect of it for me.
Yeah, well, it's about decentralizing power, and I think that the kind of community governance aspects that we're seeing right now in a lot of different cryptocurrencies is freaking amazing, because we're doing all these essentially experiments. I mean, so much of the crypto economy right now is experimental in one way or another, right? And it works, it's great, but what's, will the community decide crazy things? It's the community, right? You never know.
Well, potentially. I mean, the thing is that if you're either an authority or you're an anarchy, you know what I mean? And the way that these things should work is as an anarchy, and that's not a bad word or a dirty word.
It has been made one, unfortunately. Well, like so many words that shouldn't be bad.
No, it absolutely shouldn't be. Like, all it means is that each individual has the power to participate how they see fit, right? And that's a really beautiful statement, that being autonomous over your decisions, being autonomous how you engage with stuff. And that's what this project really does. So, Bitcoin in the same sense is an anarchy that's protected by a democratic consensus, and the same with Navcoin, both in its, blockchain validation, and now also in its self-funding mechanism.
Anarchy on the blockchain.
Exactly.
But you're absolutely right, though. And this is one of the things that gets me so excited about the crypto economy overall, is that there's just so many interesting things happening, and so many ways that we can empower ourselves and kind of create new innovation, create new communities, create new capital and investment and all these different things. So it's super exciting to, really just see these conversations being happened, not just conversations, move past that and actually see the real implementations of these things working out.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to move the chat onto privacy, because we've seen so much happening in the technological aspects of privacy this year. We've seen Mimblewimble coming out, we've seen all kinds of different things in terms of privacy technology moving forward. The guys at Monero are never stopping, the guys over at Zcash, they've done the sapling upgrade, and you guys over at Navcoin are doing some new privacy things as well. So you can tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really exciting field. It's one of the reasons why I got involved in Navcoin, was from the privacy aspect of what we were trying to achieve. And, I think that one of the things that makes it so exciting is that there's no clear winner yet. There's a lot of great ideas, and some are better than others. Our original privacy implementation was good at the time, but we've since deprecated that. And now we've spent a lot of time, well, Alex predominantly has spent a lot of time over the last sort of 12 months researching the best way to improve it, and to bring that privacy from the Navtech server clusters to an on-chain, cryptographic form of privacy. So what we did was kind of go out and survey the industry and try and look for all of the things which are good about particular projects and all of the things which are bad. And we sort of combined a lot of technologies which are existing, and also added our own flavor in there as well to create kind of like a chimera of privacy coins. So ZeroCT is partly based on the Zerocoin protocol, which has been around for ages and is really well researched and is really solid. It's based on burning coins to accumulators and then having cryptographic proof that you can extract them back out at any given point in the future, so that you break that link between the coins that went in and the coins that went out.
That's usually referred to as like minting, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other technology that we've seen is Monero. Well, it's not, it was actually a BIP, I think, was the confidential transactions and bulletproofs, which have recently been added into Monero. And that's a really good way of hiding the amount. So we've got those two parts. One hides the Zerocoin hides the sender and receiver effectively by disconnecting the coins from them, and then the confidential transactions hides the amount. So with those two things combined, we're able to cover all of the things which I think are necessary to have true privacy, which is obscuring the values and also the sender and receiver. On top of that, we've added some of our own stuff as well. So the protocol allows for transferal of coins while they're in this accumulator. Most other Zerocoin implementations, you have to put the coins in and then get them out and send them on the clear blockchain. But we've actually created another method of doing that, and the way it works is quite similar to Monero's stealth addresses. So the user will have like one public private identity which is then used to derive one-use public accumulator identities. So I can give you my private identity, you just generate an address basically and send the coins to that, but those are, you're actually sending them into the accumulator, and I own those coins because I can derive the private part, the proof part that I need to get them out. So not just combining technologies, but also actually creating some new features as well. So I'm pretty excited about it. I think it's going to be really good. We've split it into two parts. So we first built the zero coin accumulator implementation, and then that's been on the testnet for a little while, and we're just about to release the confidential transactions and bulletproof parts and sort of marry those two things together. It's obviously really complicated, so it's going to be on the testnet for a while we just make 100% sure that everything's all good, because once these things get out of the box, it's a little bit hard to see what's going on, I guess.
Yeah. But so let's just to kind of break it down in a very simple way. I mean, that was actually a really good explanation. Let's just say you're going to send me some Navcoin.
Yeah.
What's actually going to show up on? I mean, for anyone who's trying to look in and see what we're doing, what are they actually going to see, if anything?
Wow, on the blockchain, there's literally just no sender, no receiver, and no amount.
So there's just a timestamp to say that something happened at that time.
Yeah. So they're all all those things are obscured, and they're all cryptographically proved to be true through zero knowledge proofs, right? So what that means is that that we're able to prove that part of the calculation is correct without needing to know all of the parts of the calculation, right? So it's kind of, the math is actually really simple. Well, some of it is simple.
Math people always say that.
Like, you can kind of think of it like if we have two inputs and two outputs, and we know that one of them, that they both equal to 10, right? And we can see that the outputs also both equal to 10. We don't need to know what the two values are, but we know that the inputs and outputs are correct. Like, that's a gross oversimplification. But, you know, by going outputs minus inputs equals 0, as long as it equals 0, then we know that the amounts are correct. So there's obviously a whole bunch of other stuff in there, especially when it comes to the identities and stuff. But that's a really simple way to think about how we can hide the amount or obscure the amount without necessarily needing to know what the individual amounts actually are.
Yeah, very interesting. The progression of privacy technology, it's this constant battle, because every time we're innovating, the other guys, the government and people who want to spy in and see what you're doing with your transactions and all these different things, they're also innovating to try and look around the corner. Now, I know the guys at Monero are working on something to basically hide the internet traffic as well of any transaction.
Right.
You know, I mean, to what level are you personally concerned with, you know, state resistance towards, you know, interference and trying to find out, you know, looking at the internet traffic, for example, of Navcoin and things like this?
Yeah, well, I mean, you can do some things already to try and help that. Like, you could connect to your wallet through Tor and stuff like this, but it's not often easy. And I think, you know, that's one of the major things one of the major next steps, right? Once you've obscured the sender, the receiver, and the amount, all you've really got left is metadata around the time stamp, which you're probably never really going to get rid of, because blockchains are timestamp machines. But then there's the metadata around, well, can we tell where that transaction originated? So there is various things you can do to obscure that data, and I think that's probably going to be one of the next places innovators look to help people hide their privacy. Now, hide their identity. Now, for me, as I said before, I do think that anarchy is not a dirty word, so I believe in the autonomy of the individual, and that should be paramount. Obviously, with that, especially when we're talking about financial stuff, we're going to get some good and some bad things happen. You know, like, obviously, there's some people are going to abuse that for money laundering or other purposes, but it's inevitable, right?
Yeah,
when you look
they abuse anything, right?
When you look at any neutral technology, like even the internet, there's a huge amount of good things that come out of the internet being open and free.
That's right.
And then there's some bad things, but they're largely on the fringe. And the thing that we've done, especially with the 0CT, is that we've made it so that it is auditable by the individual as well. So even though you can't see the stuff on the blockchain, you're able to construct your own transactions, obviously.
Of course.
And it's really up to the individual to disclose those transactions for tax purposes and make sure that they're abiding with their local laws. But the thing with this technology is that it's so global. Whose laws do we program it for, right?
That's right.
So we have to program it from a position of being neutral, and we have to hand that control over to individual jurisdictions, and we have to hand that control back to the individual, and we have to just trust that people are generally good, and that they want to use these things for good, and we need to protect the most vulnerable people in our society instead of treating people who want to have privacy like criminals.
Yeah, that's super well said, and it's without a doubt a situation when it comes down to privacy of most people are inherently good. Most people do want to just do whatever they want to do, but not have everyone knowing about it, and that's a human right. You're entitled to your privacy.
Absolutely.
It's really interesting how technologically we're getting the tools finally, I feel, and this is what blockchain gets me so excited. This is what keeps me here. This is, I'm sure, what keeps you here as well. I know we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but it's this creation of really the self-sovereign person via technology, because no longer do we have to rely on our bank for our financials. No longer do we have to rely on our government to maintain our privacy, right? And all these different things. And so we're actually breaking through the barriers of all these institutions, and it's very exciting times.
It is. I think that it's one of those things, like with great power comes great responsibility, right? Because that is the thing. You get self-sovereignty over your finances, and you get self-sovereignty over your privacy, and you get, to actually participate in a financial system which is transparent to the 8th decimal place, that you know exactly the rules and they're hard to change except by democratic consensus. Instead of this opaque system where you have no access to the people who can actually affect change, and you have no real actual idea how the money system works, and it's based on fractional reserve type banking, where they're essentially creating 10 times more money than they have out of thin air. So it's
what a system.
But because we are taking that power back, there is a bit of a learning in there as well.
Yeah.
And we see it over and again when people leave their coins on exchanges and they get hacked, or the exchange exit scams or something like this, or they just haven't secured their computer properly and they're downloading all sorts of malware and getting their keys stolen. It happens all the time. But with that power comes responsibility. You have to learn a bit about, you have to learn a little bit about computer security, and you have to learn a little bit about keeping your finances secure and privacy and stuff like that. But the trade-off is ultimately worth it for a few quick pointers, and you get to take control back of your life, basically.
And it's 2019. If you don't have some kind of basic concepts about computer security, you shouldn't be on the internet. It's crazy. It's because you have to know these basic things. It's super important.
Yeah.
Anyway, Craig, super interesting conversation. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to give me a call and say, hey, Lark, let's go chat about crypto. Always a pleasure.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Awesome.